How did you make someone cry? I heard it secondhand from my mom, but I made my grandfather cry, in a good way. I had taken him for his monthly doctor appointment in the big city. My cousin just had a baby girl, so he was showing the nurses photos of her exclaiming, "I'm a great grandfather." I turned to him and said, "You were already a great grandfather." He didn't say anything, but later, Mom told me he cried when he got home. This really makes me miss my grandpa. He passed in 2016 on vacation with my grandmother. I just wish there was a way to let him know that I love him and haven't forgotten him in the slightest. I worked at a DQ, as we had a new employee at the time, someone who had gone to the same school as me. I was telling my co-workers who the new employee was. I said her name out loud. She had been in the lobby, just out of sight, heard her name, and assumed I was talking crap about her. Started bawling and walked out on her shift. She did not last very long after that. In 3rd grade, someone in my class told me to ignore a friend of mine for a whole week to see how they'd react. I was a baby back in 3rd grade and normally just did what people asked of me, so I went ahead and ignored my bro in class, recess, and on the bus. It hit him hard to the point that he had a full-on breakdown. Actually still friends with the guy to this day. Not sure if he remembers this incident back in 3rd grade, like 15 years ago, but I still think about it occasionally. Might bring it up next time we hang out and see what he says. Update if you do. I did similar things I still feel bad about, but I'm in contact with any of those people anymore. Wonder how they feel about it now. I work at a theater. A guest had their cell phone on with max screen brightness and they were sitting in the lower rows so everyone behind them could see it. Naturally, I asked them to turn their phone off or stow it completely. They instantaneously started crying instead. This guest was a woman in her early 20s. In middle school, a girl was dared to go up to me and slap me, and I immediately just slapped her back and she cried. It was kinda funny looking back and we both apologized, but dang, I was scared for a bit there that I was going to get in trouble with the school or something. When I was in middle school, a girl told me that her friend had a crush on me, and I just laughed because I thought they were doing that thing that middle schoolers do where they try to embarrass their friend by telling the awkward nerd that said friend like said nerd. But then the girl just ran away crying and I felt like the biggest jackass. I faked cried after my friend's kid said he didn't want to be on my Mario Party team because I was bad. Apparently my fake crying is on point, so he started really crying because he thought he hurt my feelings. Not my proudest moment. He's such a sweet kid. I mean, lesson taught. Making others feel bad doesn't feel good, B. Casual acquaintance in my friend group in high school cut her own fringe. It was so bad I laughed. I genuinely didn't mean to have her in her face, it just slipped out in my shock at how bad she'd botched it. I felt so bad about it I took her to my hairdresser after school and they tried to fix it. There wasn't much they could do. We were doing that thing where you give a gift to someone else and they do the same. Don't remember what it was called. I was gifted one of those stamp collecting books, more like a magazine. It was a really cute girl and I really liked the gift, so with excitement when I received it I asked, "Where did you buy this?" which apparently she thought was me making fun of the gift. So she cried. I just wanted to know where she got it so I could get the stamps to complete the collection. This was before high school and to this day I cringe when I remember trying to explain myself and no one would listen. I never even found out where to get the dang thing, so I had to throw it away. By not letting my 3-year-old cousin have a drink of my wine, she cried and ran out of the room like I had totally offended her. It's wine o'clock, not wine o'clock. We were at a fancy dinner under the stars on our honeymoon. My mashed potatoes were delicious and apparently some ended up in my beard. My wife started laughing at me and by the time I figured out why she was in tears. Username checks out. Called her out after she mocked me for being colorblind. She thought she was being funny. She realized she was being in butthole instead. Got bullied for years for being colorblind. Us colorblind folks have to stick together. Here's hoping for redder pastures. I graduated high school. That's obviously not special. But the year before I graduated, my brother was involved in a serious accident that left him quite crippled. He put off getting his degree, so now he'll never have it. My dad cried big time when I walked across the stage. I hope you know there is nothing you could have done in that situation. And I hope your family feels better about the situation that happened. I didn't yell at her or get angry when she accidentally burnt some bacon. Context: her ex was massively abusive and got angry at her over the tiniest things, including minor mistakes including her cooking. When she burnt the bacon accidentally, she instinctively expected me to be angry about it, and it was an emotional relief when I didn't. Joked that my sister would never have kids in the context of my son being bratty that day and trying to traumatize her. Found out when she disappeared to cry in the bathroom that she's struggling with fertility issues. So that sucked. Dang, this must have hurt both parties very badly. Apparently, not letting my 4-year-old niece come into the bathroom with me while I pooped was the greatest injustice she has ever experienced. I was in the vet with my 12-week-old kitten and my really stressed out husband because my kitten was peeing blood. There was a bunch of other stuff happening in our lives and everyone was really stressed. We were waiting for the vet to come in and I was freaking out over the kitten. I thought he had urinary crystals like my older cat. And I was holding him and crying and I was talking about how if he had urinary crystals he might die because he was so little, and my husband was basically like, nothing is going to happen to him. He's our baby, and started crying. It was actually super sweet because we had just adopted out his mom and sister and he was the last foster. Saved his pregnant mom from the street, and that was pretty much when my husband decided we were keeping him. He was okay. BTW. The vet couldn't find any sign of infection or crystals and just kept asking me if I had dropped him. I told her no, but that he threw himself into the ground pretty hard a lot while playing. She was kind of giving me the side eye and then he tried to get down off the exam table, tripped over himself and fell down. She was basically like, yeah, clumsy little butthole bruised his bladder. He'll be fine. He was. Other than the fact that he's still clumsy over a year later. I feel this. Took my dog to the vet because she swallowed a corn dog whole with the stick. But the way she did it was the funniest thing. I literally could not stop laughing about it. I feel like the vet thought we did it on purpose. I unknowingly friend-zoned a girl hard in college. I didn't find out until a while later, but she had a bit of a crying freakout during class shortly after and ran out. I only know because my now wife was in her class. Ouch. Japanese tourist asked me where Anne of Green Gables was buried. I told him she wasn't a real person and he started to cry. I still feel bad and it's been years. This is so random, lol. In elementary school we were standing up to sing the national anthem and I was chatting to the person beside me. My teacher proceeded to yell at us and say, I can't hear the anthem if you're chatting, Peel gal, and I said, well now no one can hear because you're yelling Ms. Swan, and she cried the rest of the anthem. I kinda feel like that teacher had a lot more going on than a kid whispering during an anthem though. I was playing a friendly game of baseball with mixed adults and kids. I was manning third base and a kid was running for third. The ball was thrown to me but too high so I jumped for it. The kid decided to plow into me, knocking my feet out from under me before I landed. I came down hard on him and broke his leg. Oh boy did he cry. Yeah, that's on him. During my pediatrics rotation in medical school, we spent a day at a daycare. I was chaperoning a bunch of preschoolers on the playground and one of them asked me to push her on a swing. While doing so, I decided to make small talk since I had no idea how to interact with children. Still don't. I said, so, about to start elementary school, huh? Which school are you going to? She had a look of complete shock, stopped the swing, and screamed I don't know, then broke down in tears and ran away from me. My instincts kicked in and I immediately walked in the opposite direction nonchalantly so the employees wouldn't suspect me. I didn't go into pediatrics. Unintentionally abandoned her at a convention center after an event. I thought she had a ride with a mutual friend but I was wrong. Now we're married so I get to make her cry about more than just accidental abandonment. Ah yes, you've leveled up to intentional abandonment. Congrats. In high school I was kinda a tool. A girl ran up to her friend and said OMG 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 you'll never believe what happened, and I was standing right there and I replied in a rude mockery of her voice, OMG 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 what happened, and she just looked at me and burst into tears and ran off. And I was just left standing there like, why did I do that? So I went and apologized later that day. Their dog ran out in the street in front of my car and I couldn't stop in time before hitting it. The dog died within seconds. Both me and the owner were in tears about it. Big time. That day really sucked. I told one of my employees that he was the worst employee I'd had in 20 years of supervision, and if he didn't get his act together he was going to get fired very shortly. He started crying, then went to try to get me into trouble for bullying him. He was a 38-year-old man who had never held a job for more than a couple of months in his life. He was fired not long after for claiming he couldn't work due to a toothache 3 Fridays in a row. Read point 38 and thought the story was going a different way. Oof, this made me cry too. A few years ago I had a non-major intro to drawing class in college. We were all just taking it to graduate. At the beginning it was awkward, no one spoke, everyone stayed in their lane, content to rush through the class and get the credit. By the end it had turned into a giant version of the Breakfast Club where everyone loved everyone and was emotionally honest about their art and feelings. It was wild. So the last day we were having a rap session, making plans for the future and discussing how the class went. So I called out one of the girls and simply said, "You're the reason everyone here started being so comfortable and open because you were always so honest and compassionate." She instantly started bawling and saying how that's all she's ever wanted to be for others. Cut to 21 grown but adults sobbing and falling all over each other. That honestly sounds amazing. I'd been dating my boyfriend for a few months. We had both really connected. There was palpable chemistry. There were a couple moments I would look at him and could see how much he loved me, like it was written in plain English on his face. Neither of us had mustered the courage to say the words. I was heading out of town one day and as we were saying our goodbyes I just looked him in the eyes and said, "You know I love you, right?" He immediately teared up as he told me he loved me too. It was really moving. I made a video for a friend where I interviewed people my friend knew and asked what that friend meant to them. Stitched it all together with music and pictures over the course of us knowing each other. Happy tears were shed for at least an hour. This is amazing. What a thoughtful gift. A girl who would cry at the stupidest things came to sit with my friends and I at lunch one time. She came in wearing a giant orange Home Depot jacket. A friend of mine asked, "What's up with your jacket?" She started tearing up and I braced myself for the inevitable waterworks. When she says, "It was my mom's, she killed herself yesterday," I was totally unprepared and freaking laughed so hard because I have a terrible nervous laugh. She got up and sobbed in the bathroom for the rest of lunch part of the day. I really didn't mean to laugh. I also started laughing at my friend's open casket funeral. I freaking hate having a nervous laugh. I hate it so much. I have a really bad nervous laugh. It's made me seem like a total dickwad more times than I can count. Someone said my dog wasn't as pretty as I thought she was. I was drunk and showing everyone a picture of my jet black German Shepherd. They're wrong though. I know this girl who is a young and very talented artist. She couldn't afford art supplies and was painting with things like leftover hair dye. I recently bought her paints and brushes and other supplies and sent it to her as a surprise. She cried with happies. I can't wait to see what she creates. That's a really nice thing to do. By showing up. There's an old woman, let's call her Miss W, that I grew up with. She and her, unfortunately late, husband both have been living next to us for God knows how long. I remember weeks of rolling down the hill in her yard, waving to her husband as he took out the trash, and going to her every few days just to see her. However, once I started middle school, I just stopped seeing her, and then, at night, around a year or two ago, her husband died. I saw the ambulance drive to her house and I swear he was about to cry. Over time, as I began high school and college, my grandma had to take her to the senior citizens home. She comforted my grandma when my grandpa died. I swear she's the sweetest old lady I've seen. And then, I show up. After over 12 years of not seeing her, I show up to her doorstep and I give her a gentle hug. I look at her and the poor woman started to cry. I was horribly confused and I asked her what was wrong and she said, "You're all grown up." At the widow's request, I played Schubert's Ave Maria on the organ just before the coffin departed the church for the cemetery. From the choir loft high above, I could hear sobbing below. Afterwards, the priest told me that even he shed a few tears with the people around him. I was in the popular crowd, and a popular girl wanted to date me, but I said no, and she turned the entire group against me. I didn't know what social anxiety was before that. Our middle school. That's the definition of sociopathic right there. Holy crap. Sorry about your anxiety, dude, but you definitely dodge a bullet. I was at a wedding reception last weekend that featured a bunch of different yard games and fun toys for the kids and already intoxicated adults to play with before we sat down for dinner. I was standing there talking to a friend when my other friend's girlfriend rocked me right in the face with a frisbee from like 10 feet away. I wasn't even looking, and since I didn't even have time to flinch, my upper lip took the hit and split the inside of my lip wide open. I was absolutely gushing blood and reeling from the hit as she started to bawl her eyes out because she felt so bad. Our other friend is a nurse and assured me I didn't need stitches, just keep ice on it and keep flushing with salt water. I immediately forgave her because it was an accident, but nothing I could do or say could stop her from crying. To be honest, it kind of ruined both of our nights. I had a buddy get nailed in the throat with a frisbee, hard enough that he couldn't talk louder than a whisper for several weeks. I've also been hit in the face with a stray disc or two. Definitely could see that ruining someone's night. My dad was a county sheriff when I was in high school, and one time I stopped by the jail with a girlfriend on our way to a hike we had planned. My dad and I thought it would be funny to give her a tour of the jail and lock her in a cell and walk away. Turns out not funny at all. She was crying pretty good in the 20 or so seconds it took to come back and unlock the cell and get her out. We weren't together for much longer. TW. A few months ago, having a tipsy heart-to-heart with one of my friends, I told him the reason I cancelled my drama school audition was because I was suicidal, and I didn't want to waste a university's time when I was more likely to kill myself before the audition date. My friend is someone that doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve and is very hard to get any kind of emotion out of, even with the most tragic of news. But upon hearing this, he just held me and cried and told me it was going to be okay. Him crying is the worst thing in the world, and every day since then I worked towards trying to make myself feel better, because struggling through my darkest days is less painful than the thought of what his reaction would be to the news of my death. I'm similar to your friend in that I haven't cried since I was a little kid, but this made me tear up. Thanks for helping me confirm that I'm still able to feel emotion. A friend of mine texted me that he's feeling very low, so I asked if he wanted to talk about it and he refused. So without insisting, I just started talking about other things and joking about little stuff. A while later he told me that he can't stop crying because how happy he is to be with me, and he loves how much I care about him. My heart melted and I cried a little too. Have a coworker that I avoid interacting with. She makes everyone miserable and flat out refuses to do even the most basic parts of her job duties. She's the stereotypical snowflake boomer, and I go weeks at a time without saying a word to her. So I was finishing up some work and getting ready to head out since I was on vacation the following week. Now keep in mind here, we don't talk, like at all. All of a sudden as she's leaving, she starts this fake spiel of how she hopes I have a great vacation, etc. I'm trying to finish typing up a case and coordinate with another coworker of mine since they're going to have to handle the issue while I'm out. She keeps talking and blathering on, and when she finally gets done listening to herself talk, I say okay with complete indifference. She immediately burst into tears and left. She wants emotional validation from you. Do with that what you will. I was bullied in middle school, came with being the new kid. My friend I made became friends with the popular girls yet still maintained a friendship with me when they weren't around, and was a B to me when they were. In 7th grade, I was desperate to make this group of girls like me even though they were really cruel to me. The way I saw it, to be liked, I had to be a bully too since it was all I'd known. So once in class I was passing notes with this friend, and I basically wrote a front to back page full straight up roasting the heck out of this social studies teacher that nobody in our grade liked. It was really mean. Unfortunately for me, I forgot to throw it away and left it in the classroom. Someone found it, recognized my handwriting and gave it to her. I didn't see it, but I heard she cried, and this was like a 40+ YO woman. I was mortified, devastated, and was sent to my counselor where I just felt like the biggest piece of crap. I went to the teacher and apologized profusely, but thinking back it still makes me freaking cringe. I never wrote a note like that again. Years ago, a major law firm hired me to estimate the environmental costs of a proposed multi-million-dollar purchase of 5 huge Southern California undeveloped desert, farm and ranch land parcels for their very wealthy client. I flew down to Santa Barbara and met up with a local environmental expert from my international firm. We drove to the seller's office. The seller was not the office though we had an appointment. The young lady receptionist gave us a stock of environmental reports to take and review. We thanked her and took the box of reports to our rented car. Then the receptionist said, "It's really not necessary for you to be here. I'm sure everything is okay." I asked her if she read the reports, visited the parcels, interviewed agencies, checked permits, and if she was a qualified professional as my local environmental expert and I were both California registered environmental assessors. The receptionist broke into tears. I was shocked. I asked my trans friend, FTM, that I didn't realize was trans at the time. "Chill, are you on your period?" and he started crying. That's rough, buddy. Made my ex-girlfriend's dad cry tears of joy because I treated his daughter so well. Made her cry too a few months later when I dumped that manipulative nightmare of a woman. Double kill. I used to work with an incompetent person. She had perfected the art of being so bad at her job but so sweet that everyone would just treat her like a puppy and do all of her work for her. She would literally put zero effort into learning or attempting her own job, and I had zero time for her crap. She came to me one week and asked me to do something, so I showed her how to do it. The next week when it had to be done again, she just found me, and I asked, "Did you even try on your own?" And she stammered some excuses. So I showed her again and told her this was the final time. The next week she once again just came to find me, obviously assuming I would just do it for her, no questions asked, and was heartbroken when I just flatly refused to do her work for her over and over. This went on for years. I still claim to this day that I was never actually cruel to her. I simply expected her to be a professional. Since I was literally the only person in the office that didn't treat her like a pet and clean up her little messes, I seemed cruel by comparison. I honestly can't remember what I did or said on that given day that made her run out of my office, but a few minutes later my friend came in and said she ran out of the office to the restroom. To me, it's a win-win situation, she's literally crying. Yes, well, both wins are for me. Broke his heart. Afterwards, he sent a song with guitar and sad vocals. You heard he had a hard time holding it together. I still got recordings of someone crying by my cause on a hard disk somewhere. Yikes. I mean, keep it, but yikes. I too was given a horrifying gift after breaking up with an ex. Mine was a portrait. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.